that you have a palette for week 1 assignment 4, you're going to want to think about how you can start creating your design. So we'll just move that down and we'll start looking at some of the shapes that you can use. The shape tool is one of the ways you can create a shape in Illustrator. So if you click and hold, you'll get some options for shapes, and if you click on this outside arrow, that entire toolbox will detach, and then you have all the options there for you in front of you, and I like to do that sometimes. So if you want to create a rectangle, you can just click on the rectangle tool, and let's just make it one of our palette colors, and you can use that shape as the basis of your design. Now if you decide to use any of these shapes, you can use multiple versions of them. So although I said you can only stick to one shape, of course if you choose rectangles, you can use many shapes and sizes of rectangles in the one design. There are lots of options there for you, and rectangles can make stripes as well, so that's another thing to think about. Rectangles are very malleable and inspiring. You can create some really interesting designs just using rectangles. You also have the option of creating a rectangle with a rounded corner, and if you just click once on the artboard or there, you can change the corner radius. So you might decide to go for a radius, say with 40 pixels, in which case you get this interesting oval shape. It becomes, those corners become so round it's practically an oval. So you can have a lot of fun with those options as well. And take it a long way, practically to a circle. Okay, and then of course there is the circle tool, or the ellipse tool, and if you hold the shift key down as you're using the circle tool, you'll get a perfect circle, and if you don't, you'll get an ellipse. And it's fine to include ellipses and circles in the one design. There's also the option for the hexagon here, but it doesn't have to be a hexagon. If you click down on the artboard, you'll see that you have the option to include many sides, and it can be a nonagon. Oops. And it can even be a triangle. So that's perfectly fine too. If you want to use triangles, that's the best way of creating them. And then you can change the radius as well, if you want to do that. It's just about changing the size. Okay, now as you can see we have a star option here, but as you know already, I prefer it if you don't use the star tool. But that's not the only way you can create a shape in Illustrator. You can create shapes with the pencil tool, and these are great for creating blobby shapes. Just colour that. And random shapes. So you can do your design just using the pencil tool and creating random shapes. But don't be tempted to draw figurative objects. So for example, don't draw a flower with the pencil tool just because you can. I would much prefer it, oh yes, that doesn't look like a flower at all anyway, but I'm sure that if you did it, it would look like a flower. Yes, so you want to make sure that your designs are abstract and remain abstract and don't start to look figurative. No, there's not much I can do about getting that to look like a flower. So if you do use the pencil tool, you know, keep your shapes abstract. And of course you can use the pen tool as well. And the pen tool is great for creating shapes that have hard edges. But you want to avoid creating a shape that looks like a star, remember? So you can create some interesting shapes with the pen tool, but just just make sure they don't look like you've used the star tool. Alright, so they are the types of shapes that you can create in Illustrator, and I hope you have fun with them.